I need you to picture a man, and this man, his name is Lazarus. I'm not talking about the Lazarus that Jesus rose from the dead. I'm talking about the Lazarus that Jesus talks about in his parable, in his story of Lazarus. So picture him on any normal evening of the week, and it's this man that is sitting outside the gate of a beautiful house. He's been set there, which means that somebody carried him and placed him down in front of this gate. He can't even get himself to the garbage. He is a weak man. His skin is open from disease and burnt from the sun. Dogs come and go, and they lick this man's wounds, and we don't really know if he welcomes the licking of his wounds from the dogs or if he just doesn't have the strength or the capability to shoo them off. Inside of that gate, every single day, there's a man in the finest purple linens. He eats 4-star Michelin food that shouldn't end up as scraps on the floor. But it does. He doesn't care. Everything that this man could possibly ever want is a bell ring away. He is by every measure the world has ever invented would have been considered blessed, successful. Some might even use the word saved. By the logic of his age, the age that he is in, of his generation, wealth was a sign of divine favor. And I wonder how many of you listening still consider wealth to be a signal of divine favor. In Lazarus would have been clearly cursed. See, the world has its categories. It always does. It will always find a place to neatly file away where a persons should and shouldn't be. But here's what the gospel is not. The gospel is not a recipe. It's not the instructions on how to make a perfect flan. Follow these steps in order to follow these steps in the precise order, and every time you're going to get salvation. The gospel is not some technique that you and I master. It's a story with a beautiful theme that keeps returning. It is this perfect divine flywheel. In everything that Jesus ever said or did, you see it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And that theme is always the same. The last shall be first. In other words, the ones the world have written off are the ones that God is running toward. And in this story, Jesus is about to flip the tables. So in Luke 16:19 through 31 is where you'll find this parable about Lazarus and the rich ruler and Abraham. And Jesus says this story without a flinch, without any kind of safety net. See, where I'm going tonight, we have to look, we have to inspect this parable closely. Because while within the inspection of this story, we will be able to rightly consider what Peter is telling his audience in 1 Peter chapter 3 through 4. So Jesus says, he says, there was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen, and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. You see, the rich man has everything. It's interesting to note that in all of the parables that Jesus taught, not one character is ever named except this man, Lazarus. El-Azar. That would be the Hebrew way of saying his name, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. He names him, and his name means God is my help. Total abandonment into the care of God. And I believe that this is exactly the point of naming Lazarus. But who is this rich man? He's not named. And while Jesus doesn't say Pharisee outright, but then again, does he really need to? The audience knew. His audience consisted of both the Lazarus type of people and Pharisees type of people. Purple linen, daily feasting, a gate. If you listen to my last teaching, I talked a little bit about Hades. You need to go back and listen to that. This is based off of the revelation that Peter got. Who is the Son of Man? Jesus says, upon that revelation, the gates of Hades will not prevail. I'm paraphrasing it, but go listen to it because it'll give context to this. The gate. Think Hades. This gate that keeps the wrong people out. So this is a portrait of a man who has been winning the religious game his entire life. And Jesus has already told his disciples something about people like this. He said in another place, he says, beware the leaven of the Pharisees. And just imagine it. Imagine there are people, the disciples are there, and they hear Jesus say this. They many times, and including in this portion where he says this, he says, beware the leaven of the Pharisees. And the disciples had no idea what he was referring to. You could almost see the conversation. You could sort of hear it, talking amongst themselves, asking the question, hey, which one of you idiots bought bread from a Pharisee? And then making a mental note within each other to remind each other to not buy any bread that comes from Pharisees. It's quite comical to think about it that way, but that could have very well happened. I can't prove it, but I suppose you can't disprove it either. This word leavened, that Jesus uses, it's a word, a Hebrew word, chametz, and tucked inside of this word leavened, there's this idea of fermented and sour. This leavened isn't just about bread that has risen. It is something that has been quietly working on the inside, from the inside, corrupting the whole batch. Fermentation, it doesn't necessarily announce itself. It just spreads. And by the time it's done, that whole lump of dough has completely changed. That is what the Pharisees' religion had become. A fermented, puffed up system performing righteousness, negotiating with the law, keeping Lazarus. And I think here's a really good spot for me to tell you that Lazarus is the Christ figure in this story. Keeping Lazarus, Christ, on the other side of the gate. The rich man in this story had been so thoroughly leavened by the logic that even standing in Hades, this rich ruler is still trying and giving order, still trying to win. The shemetz, the leaven, has done its work all the way through. But both Lazarus and the ruler die. And all of the world's categories evaporate. He says, the time came when the beggar died and the angels carried him to Abraham's side The rich man also died and was buried. Notice how Lazarus, when he dies, is carried. So he's carried to the gate. He is also carried by the angels even after death. Someone carries Lazarus. God is my help. The rich man is just buried. That's it. No escorts, no angels, just burial. And in Hades, we have this rich man who lifts up his eyes and sees Abraham. And he continues to keep winning, or at least tries to win. He asked Abraham to send Lazarus to bring him water. He's still giving orders. He's still operating by the logic of this world. The world where people like Lazarus exist to serve people like him. But Abraham's answer is a firm no. He says in the story, he says, "Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here and you are in agony." Talks about a chasm, and this chasm that cannot be crossed. And here's the thing that you must know. There is no amount of divine favor, no wealth, no status. There is no religious resume that kept either of these men from death. Both Lazarus and the rich ruler walked straight into it. Because this is exactly what the law does. See, the law isn't some kind of a ladder where you can climb your way out. The law is a contract. It demands something from you, and you and I would be spending our whole lives negotiating with it, justifying ourselves within its boundaries, trying to prove you've kept your end of the deal. And the Pharisees were experts at this negotiations. The rich man had apparently been winning. And still, both of them, Lazarus, who had nothing, and the ruler, who clearly had everything, got the only thing the law has ever been able to give anyone: death. The law does not have resurrection in it. It never did. It never will. And there's a word that keeps appearing in this story, and then it reappears in 1 Peter chapter 3. See, the bad things, the evil, this is the word that reappears. See, in Luke 16:25, the text references the evil, the bad things. In other words, the worthless things that Lazarus experienced. And it reappears there exactly in 1 Peter 3:9 and 3:12. He uses the same word, kaka, or kakos. Just means evil, means worthless. It means rotten, poison. Think of it as the thing that corrupts from the inside, leavened, sour, fermentation. It has that feel to it. But in the negative context, the world's logic labeled Lazarus as kakos, as worthless, as rotten, contributing nothing to his community, poison to a healthy society. But in the kingdom, what the world calls kakos is exactly where God is most present. What the world throws away is exactly what God sets at the table of honor. This isn't a peripheral teaching. Look, this is the motive that runs through everything Jesus ever said. The last shall be first. The poor in spirit inherit the kingdom. The one who loses his life finds it. And notice who Jesus is telling this story to. The Pharisees and Sadducees, the ones who religious world of that day would have pointed to and said, those are the saved ones. The ones who know the law, who keep the system, who have the credentials. They're the rich man in this story. They are the ones inside of the gate, eating well, wearing the right clothes, carrying the right titles. And Lazarus, the dumpster diver, the one eating the scraps that shouldn't even be on the floor, quite frankly, of the system had neatly filed under the lost and found category. The one who stenches of rottenness. He is the one who angels carry. He's the one who is resting in Abraham's arms. It's not the Pharisees and the Sadducees of the world who are proclaimed as the righteous ones of the Lord. It's all of the Lazarus, the beggars, the weak, the poor, those who cannot buy their way in, who know that the only chance at salvation is receiving a free gift of life from the very one who is life itself. Now we're ready for 1 Peter 3. We're ready for it now. You need to know who he's writing to. He is writing to a scattered and displaced people who are living under this Roman occupation. They have been told by their world in 1,000 different ways that they are the kakos. They are the ones outside of the gate. They are the ones with sores that the dogs lick. And Peter writes to them not with a program of self-improvement, not with a 10-step plan for gaining influence in Rome. This isn't an AA meeting. He writes to them with the logic of resurrection. And it is the only logic that overturns the logic of this world. Peter says, finally, all of you be like-minded and sympathetic. Love as brothers. Be tender-hearted and humble. Do not repay evil with evil, or insult with insult, but with blessing. Because of this, you were called so that you may inherit a blessing. So don't miss what Peter is saying here. He's not giving them a list of better ethics. He is describing a people who have already been reorganized on the inside. There is a leaven, a fermentation inside of them, a righteous and holy fermentation inside of them. Their interior world had been reoriented around a completely different center of gravity. The world runs on caca for caca, insult for insult, wound for wound. So this is the only math that the empire knows. But these people, they've been baptized into a death and a resurrection. They have passed through water. Something fundamental had changed in them. And in the middle of Peter's letter, he quotes Psalms 34. And right in the middle, the same word, kakos, is being used. He must turn from evil and do good. He must seek peace and pursue it. Turn from evil. Same word. Same word that he uses in verse 9 when he says, don't repay evil for evil. Same word that's being used in the story about Lazarus. Bad things, worthless things, the rotten, poisonous fruit of the world running on the wrong logic. There is a logic. See, there is a leaven of law, and there is a leaven of Rome. And both are equally terrible, equally poisonous. There is no freedom in either one. That's why when Peter, towards the end of chapter 3, he is giving them a list of don't do's because they're worthless. There's no freedom in there. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt the people you love. You're going to hurt the people that love you. And then he says something outstanding, something that scholars have an incredible, difficult time to understand. But listen to it in light of what I've been saying. He says in chapter 4, he says, that is why the gospel has been preached even to those who are now dead, so that they might be judged as men in the flesh, but live according to God in spirit, in the spirit. The gospel was preached to the dead. The reach of the good news is not limited by who was in the right place at the right time, who heard the right sermon, who made the right decision before they ran out of time. Jesus went to prison. This is where I say to you again, on the revelation that Peter received from the Father, Jesus' response is that the gates of Hades would not prevail. See, God is a God who does not wait by the gate. This is a God who descends. He descended from heaven into the womb of Mary. Later, he descends to Hades. This is a God who descends, a God who carries, who goes wherever the unreachable are and preaches to them there, proclaims the gospel. If the world could have been saved by all the good it could do, I think this story would have been done long ago. But it didn't. We're still here. The world's good, I don't think, was ever the point, much less it was never enough. The point was life of the one who is life itself, given freely, carried to us, preached even in prisons, offered to the dead, offered to the poor, to the last. We are, all of us, Lazarus. We were laid at the gate. We had nothing that the world system could recognize as any kind of worthy currency. And everything the world would call our failure, our emptiness, our hunger, our inability to buy our way in is exactly the condition that has made us available to the only one who could actually help us. Lazarus is not only us, but look at him again. Look at him. He's laid low. Rejected by the world, carried by angels, lifted to the place of high honor. This is Christ, the one who descends all the way down, took the place the world called worthless, and was raised. Lazarus is the Christ figure hidden inside of the parable, and we too are found in him. God doesn't negotiate with kakos. Listen to me closely. He doesn't negotiate with this kakos, with the world's poison logic of winners and losers, the deserving or the undeserving. He overturns it. He flips the tables. He says, you have made my Father's house a den of thieves. He raises the dead inside it. The only true thing we can bring to the table of the Lord is our already dead life. And the only purpose is of the exchanging of our dead life for his true life. Remember, the law cannot do it. No amount of divine favor, no religious negotiations, no contract kept perfectly enough kept either Lazarus or the rich man from death. The law can only ever give you what it promised from the beginning, and what it promised was death. It was never meant to save you. It was just simply meant to show you that you need someone who can do what the law cannot. Someone who can walk into death and walk back out the other side, and then take you with him. So resurrection isn't just about an event that happened on a Sunday morning. It's the reorganization of our inner world. The moment that we stop living by this fear logic of the empire and we start living by a love logic of the kingdom. It's a place that the world can't give you. A peace that surpasses all understanding. A peace that makes you, in the middle of your suffering, someone who does not repay kakos with kakos, but meets the world with blessing. You have something the world doesn't know yet. You've already been through the water. They haven't. You came out the other side, and what waited for you there wasn't judgment, but the arms of the Father, and a seat at the table was already set for Lazarus. So, in closing, let me ask you something. What part of your life are you still trying to protect? I wonder. What is the thing you're most afraid of to lose? The thing the empire has convinced you is your security. The resurrection says you can put it down. And it's not because it doesn't matter, but because the things that you're actually hungry for, peace, the belonging, the knowledge that you're held, that is already yours. It passed to you in the water. It came with the Spirit. It was preached to you by the one who went all the way down to find you. You don't have to win anymore. Jesus has turned the tables. Your seat has your name on it. The name God gave you before the foundation of the world. And he says simply and straight to the point, come and eat. Hey, thank you so much for listening all the way through. If you made it this far and you enjoyed the podcast, if you enjoyed listening, I want to invite you to consider supporting the podcast in my YouTube channel. I have a Ko-Fi link. Consider sending a tip. Also, just so you know, we have a beautiful monthly postcard subscription where we send out one postcard a month. My wife donates the photo for the front. I write a short little reflections on it. Would love for you to be a part of that, along with some other bonus content. Don't forget, I also have an email list. So if you want to join the email list, again, all of those links are at the homepage of Fellowship of the Bread. And you can stay up to date on all the different things that's happening. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next one.